Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, gundamreviews.net, and Sunday night means it's a new episode of Gundam AGE here. We're 3 episodes into the 3rd generation, and Kyo has settled into life on board the Diva as they head off and face their first real test in regular military-esque action. In terms of the weeks, neither of these guys are going to totally qualify, but it's still great to see Albright in action, and the Taicho, who seems to be getting the captain through her paces, similar to what Mulaflaga did in Gundam Seed. He's basically going to be taking care of all of them, it looks like, and anyway, I can't wait to see more of these guys fighting in action. Asim's sister all of a sudden shows up on board the Diva because it just seems like any old civilian could just hang out and do just any old thing on there, or so it would seem. But anyway, that's still another cool link back to the 2nd generation. But one that's certainly not going to qualify. This is sort of the anti-character of the week, I suppose. For the kids, they're still trying to keep DK and his family involved. It's a lot cooler to see Madonna's son in charge of the Divas, in charge of their mobile suits, basically. But we don't need to see the antagonism, I thought, between DK's grandson and Kyo here. They got over it pretty quick by the end of the episode, as you can guess, with just a little bit of pain, with a little taste of battle. But in the end, still about as useful as a can of paint, or so I figure. But for my character of the week, Kyo and Flit both had their parts, but instead it's gotta be the Sempai who seems to have stolen the show. It was Shanalua Moraine, or whatever she's gonna end up being properly pronounced as. Anyway, certainly shades of going back to Victory Gundam and they're handling the Shrike team I'm talking about of Uso Ebbing, and handling is probably the right word. Anyway, they're creating obviously a set of tension here with a backstory, sympathy for the enemies. All of this is going to be leading up. There was a very interesting title name and preview for next week. But anyway, it's still pretty cool to see the team outside of the Taicho actually getting developed. And we'll see what kind of relationship that this is going to go in a Zeta Gundam kind of female defection direction. All that, and they actually threw in some bad guys this week that weren't carbon copies. Yes, shades of the Black Tri-Stars. For MS of the week, it certainly wasn't the team out there, but then again, these the clanches in terms of mobile suits and the Genoa O custom, they're basically just striking a chord. I think they look fantastic every time they go out there, and I guess I'm probably just going to keep showing them until we get word of a high-grade release in the near future. Hopefully. But of course, a much bigger role was played by the AGE 3, where they're revealing the wares really early and prominently, both in the opening and in the anime, and in terms of the model releases. Anyway, it was great to see the Fortress out there. We got to see a dock, which explained the whole DK's grandson thing. Flit was off running around with the other legs on, I suppose. But in the end, the sheer firepower of the AGE 3, we've already seen it with 3 big guns. Well, with the big one that it's going to come with, they had the add-on with the AGE system last week, and then this time, hey, let's just slap on 4 more. And basically that shot at the end was like as anything you'll see out of a good summon in Final Fantasy. It was great to see in Gundam. And it surprised me as well, but in an episode where we're getting a new lead Gundam variation here with a new wearer, you'd think that would totally steal the show, but I've got to say that instead went to the Phantom 3, and actually getting some vegan bad guys that are going to be differentiated besides Zahart. Haven't seen too many since the 2nd generation. But anyway, they had a great transformation, and what was the name of this? The Gomel or so it seems. Rommel, whatever, anyway, it's sort of cool. It was cool. It looked good. They fought well. They actually had some great teamwork. They had some pretty cool moves. And in the end, when they're actually going to swear their revenge against Flit, or against Kyo, because one of them did not make it out, I was always sort of hoping that the AGE 3 would sort of jump on one of their heads. But this mobile suit looked fantastic. Love the big forearms, and I'm really, again, there's more and more 3rd generation suits that I'm hoping we're going to be seeing in plastic model form 1/144th. However, for scene of the week, I'd have to say that there was a lot of character development, but there wasn't really one scene that stood out besides that WTF moment going on in the cockpit there of the AGE 3 with Kyo and his senpai Shanalua, and I suppose, yeah, just the AGE 3 Fortress's really, really big gun. Overall, I actually thought this was a pretty good episode, despite the fact that I didn't really have any scene that really stood out. For whatever reason, last week's episode just came across as nothing but let's introduce a bumbling captain, and she didn't really do much other than bumble here, even though she was getting straightened out by the old Taicho, which is still great to see. In terms of the bad guys, they actually seem pretty credible there, and I can't wait to see if they are going to be getting some revenge, the 2 of them standing there with the silhouette of their MSs behind them. And it was just great to see them cutting through the earth as they popped out of the desert and fought the Fortress, which actually had a pretty cool combination transformation and general battle scene. Looking forward to seeing more of that, and the orbital, of course, up in space is going to look great. But I have to say that I guess the episode was going to be stolen by Shanalua Moraine, And anyway, we'll see next week what's going to be happening and what her fate is going to be, whether it's going to be as a member of the Diva crew or elsewhere. Anyway, I'm looking forward to see that, and I wonder what effect that's going to have on Kyo either way. Anyway, everybody, what did you think so far of the Divas crew? Certainly evolving here. It had a better week than last week, and it's great to see them all, including Albright being addressed as San. I did like that touch. And anyway, looking forward to seeing a little bit more of this whole thing, except what's with all these civilians? Everybody's hopping up. Great to see all the second generation characters, but then again, there's just so many civilians running around. Makes you wonder what the heck is going on with Flit's position, where he ended up with the EFF, how he can end up being in charge of a ship being run by, what, a junior lieutenant or something like that. Anyway, lots of questions, but in the end, Kyo is on board a ship, and he's fighting pretty well, and we'll see where it's going to go from here. Anyway, why don't you let me know your thoughts on the episode and this review with a comment down below. Always love to hear from you, and we'll see ya. Lots more model reviews, including the SD-AGE2 and the HGA3 coming up shortly, and stay tuned for lots more news reviews and everything else you can use. See you next week for the next anime review, episode 32. Bye. You know, Senpai sure weren't like that back when I was a kid in the first generation.